Welcome to our world. Won't you come on in? Waiting just for you. Welcome to our world.
Well, welcome to whatever day today is.
It's Tuesday.
Welcome to Tuesday.
My eyes been twitching for 2 weeks.
Okay. Well, coincidentally,
feel
that's
like
our
maybe
subject for
it's-
today is what makes your eye twitch?
Related to the depression.
The depression in your eye.
Yes.
Okay, so this is regarding, the recent thing with the CEO at the Coldplay concert
Yeah.
and that whole thing.
Jeez. What a mess.
So that whole thing, and obviously everybody's picking up on that. But I guess it got me thinking about the topic of cheating and people that cheat, right?
Mm-hmm.
And basically, how prevalent is it? How is it worse than it used to be? So that's what I wanted to talk about today. What?
Well, I'm already in a bad mood, so we might as well talk about
Well,
this.
you see, you asked why I was going to give you the option
No, this is
of
so
a couple
great.
different topics.
Have you ever been cheated on?
Have I ever been cheated on?
No, that's great that you really have to take a second to think about it.
Hold on.
I love that for you.
Here's the thing. Have I been cheated on? I don't know. Have I found out that I was cheated on?
Oh, God.
No. So maybe okay. So would you like some statistics?
Yeah, I'm one of them, so go ahead.
Okay. Well, it's not all about you, as you would say to me.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I'm just making the point that you don't know anything about this topic because you've obviously never cheated on anyone.
I have never cheated. That's why I'm curious about it.
Of anyone that has cheated on you.
Not specifically on me.
Whereas I
But
have
people that
plenty
have
of
cheated on
experience
me.
with that. Can you?
Okay.
What?
No.
What are your statistics?
Okay. Estimate, because I asked this two different ways. I asked first for married couples and then just, non-married couples. So estimates on cheating among married couples vary, but studies suggest 20 to 25% of married men and 10 to 15% of married women in the U.S. engage in extramarital affairs at some point. Okay?
Yep.
Now, I didn't delve deeper and say, well, technically, what is an extramarital affair? I'm assuming, what most people would assume, I think. A 2018 survey by the Institute for Family Studies found 20% of men and 13% of women reported having cheated on their spouse. Rates may be higher in certain demographics, like younger couples, or those with greater opportunity, i.e. frequent travel.
How does it feel knowing that you are in the less faithful category as a man?
Doesn't bother me at all. Well, me personally, it doesn't bother me because I know I haven't and never considered. And it's not like I started planning it in my head or anything like that, right? So if I had, I'd wing it, apparently. But no, it's not something I ever thought of, okay? But it makes me I get very angry about dishonesty in general, but really people cheating. It makes me really angry. And I literally despise people that are like that. And I'm like, how do you not feel like just crap? How do you not feel like one of the worst people on the face of the earth, right?
I think
That's how I feel.
those people are just better at compartmentalizing than the rest of us.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a very, in my view, very charitable way to put it.
Well, charitable coming from the woman that's been cheated on in every relationship she's ever been in, except for one.
You're making it sound like, though, I don't know. I know you're not doing this, but it almost justifies it for those people. Well, they're just better at
justifying it. I'm saying that if people had consciences about things that they were doing, which arguably everybody has some kind of moral,
compass, you would hope.
Yes, some kind of line that they wouldn't cross or something.
Right.
But yeah, in general, a moral compass of sorts or whatever. And I feel like obviously this isn't something that you would know necessarily because probably people wouldn't even say this if you asked them. But I don't think people think to themselves, "Oh, I would cheat if given the option,"
Mhm.
or you know what I mean? Like, it's not something that you're just or, some
I
people I'm sure do,
I
and
that's
that's
what I
really
was
rare.
yeah.
I would think that people are just, like, chronically cheating on everybody they're with. Those people are out there. I'm not saying they don't
Yeah.
exist, but I'm saying I don't think the majority of those people, in my opinion, maybe I'm completely wrong, I don't think they go into relationships saying to themselves, "Well, at some point,
I'm
I'm
gonna
gonna cheat. It's
yeah.
gonna happen."
Yeah.
Like, I just
Well,
find that really hard to believe. So whatever happens along the way, however they justify it, it's because that's the only thing that I could possibly think of,
yeah.
because I'm thinking of myself and,
Uh,
like, if I were which I can't even imagine it, but if I were going to do something like that, I literally would have to compartmentalize so well and just live 2 different lives,
I
basically.
think,
The guilt would eat me
yeah,
alive,
yeah.
and so I feel like that's literally the only way that a lot of people would be able to do it is if they're just really good at
I think
compartmentalizing.
there are really both groups of people. Yeah, there are the people that are, kind of like good people do bad things. There's that group of people. But yeah, I do think, and I don't know what the percentage is. I wouldn't automatically assume that this is just a very small percentage. But at least I can't speak for women. At least among men, I think there are a good percentage of now it said 20, 25%, whatever the percentage was for men. I think a good percentage of that number are jerks. I think a lot of, speak on behalf of men,
I
a lot of guys are slime. They just are, right? And I know from being around guys and the way some guys are versus other guys. Yeah, but guys in a group, the ones that are slimy talk different around other guys. It's kind of like, okay, some people will act and speak completely differently when they're around say a group of people and there's small children there, right? And other people they're the same either way because they don't have to be concerned about it. And I just have known a decent number. I'm not saying it's like 50%, but it's also not like 2%, right? I just feel like I've known a decent number of guys that are just slimy, that they just have that when it comes to that, they have no morals, right? So yeah, that's I don't know. I will never understand it for the same reason you. I always think to myself, how would I feel if someone did that to me, right? So anyway, those are the percentages. I looked among non-married, and it says cheating in non-married committed relationships is somewhat more common than in marriages, with studies suggesting rates of 30 to 40% for unmarried couples compared to 15 to 25% for married couples, right? 30 to 40%. I mean, God, you're getting up close to half. That's a lot. A study by the Kinsey Institute found that 21% of individuals in monogamous non-married relationships reported having cheated. And that's people self-reporting basically. So that probably, if anything, is low. No one's going to say they cheated when they didn't. But some people will say they didn't cheat when they actually did. Another source indicates that nearly 1 in 5 individuals in long-term non-married relationships admit to infidelity, so they're pretty similar.
It's
And
just too many statistics.
there are a lot of statistics here, but I thought it was interesting because, like, and maybe it's just because to me I just don't understand it. You know what I mean? I can't relate to it.
So why do
Um,
people do it?
I did not I didn't get that far on the research. The one thing I did ask is, has it increased over the years? And it said, what I got back, and this was from Grok. Wait, go ahead.
I personally, and maybe because you sound really cynical right now, which is rare because I feel like that's my job. But so I'm going to take that for a second
Mhm.
because I personally find it really hard to believe that people are cheating. I think people now are probably cheating more emotionally because you have like emotional cheating versus actual physical cheating,
Mhm.
which is, emotional obviously being like you form an inappropriate emotional connection with someone that's not your significant other or whatever. I personally think people are emotionally cheating more now than they were however many years ago. But I find it really hard to believe that people are cheating more physically now than they were. And I think read your
I
statistic
actually,
first.
well, there's a lot here. So
Well, don't read all of them. Just so are people, does that say statistically people cheat more now than they did?
it does. It says have fluctuated over time, but evidence suggests a slight increase in recent decades.
Okay, so here's the thing. Because I'm thinking about, like, I don't know, the 30s and the 40s and
Mhm.
all this, when
Yep.
you didn't have a lot of the communication methods
Right.
that you have now and all of that stuff. And again, this is super cynical of me to think of it this way, but it's like, first of all, I think people, kind of on the same thing that I was just saying, I think people now are more likely to admit that they have cheated or are cheating or whatever than people, if you given them a survey in like the 30s, that people would be like, "Are you cheating on your wife?" And it'd be like, "No, of course I'm not cheating on my wife. What do you
Right.
mean?" No, nobody in the 30s was admitting that they were cheating on
Well,
their wife. Where are these statistics from?
I mean, the one that I think it went back to this. Oh no, wait, that was a different one I was looking at. I don't remember. I don't think they went back that far. For some reason, I was thinking they went
Well,
back to the
wherever they're
60s,
even
70s,
even if
whatever.
it was just obviously I went so
Right.
that we could have a bigger gap and make it easier to compare or whatever. But like even in the 70s and the 80s, like you're really telling me, and obviously you can't even answer this because you would never cheat and all that stuff. But in the 70s or the 80s, if someone had asked you, "Are you cheating on your wife?" Obviously you weren't married then, but I'm just saying
Right.
for purposes,
Right.
like.
You
You're
think they
gonna
would
say
be less
yes?
likely to say
No,
yes?
nobody's gonna say
Yeah.
yes. What
Well,
do you
I think
mean?
it depends. I think it depends. I don't disagree that people would be very hesitant to admit to it. Part of it depends how the survey was done. How is it reported as in like if someone says, "Yes, I was cheated on." Okay? Cuz okay, the bottom line is in a lot of cases what this really means is did you get caught cheating, right? So you could either admit to it or
Which it's much easier now to get caught cheating
well,
than it
that's true.
was
The other thing I
however
was
many
going to
years
say
ago.
though is I'm looking at this in terms of, and I didn't specifically ask about these percentages, but I'm kind of making the assumption that this is physical cheating.
Okay, because that's the other thing I was thinking. You could make that assumption, or you could, I'm assuming you're using an AI, so you could just ask them what
Right.
specifically,
Right. What
which
denotes?
stats it gave you or
Right.
whatever. But I honestly was thinking probably that was another thing, that the ones from now, it is taking into consideration both. Where if you ask someone now, I'm talking about people from like my generation, if
Yeah.
they were cheating on their significant other, even if they weren't physically cheating, because of the emotional cheating being such a big component now in relationships, I feel like people would consider that.
This is probably a generational thing because and I mean I could find out. I could go and ask it and get more detail around this. But since I didn't specify anything to do with emotional cheating, I'd be surprised if that was all lumped in together. Like if like I would assume that if I just said cheating, immediately by default, it means physical cheating, you know?
And maybe it does, and maybe
Yeah.
I'm, overthinking it or whatever, but even if it is just physical, I don't trust the numbers from I don't trust the numbers from either of them, to be honest. I think both of them are higher than they say, because even now I still think
Right.
there are people that wouldn't admit that they were
I'm
doing
sure.
it.
Yeah.
But regardless, I definitely think that the numbers from that they're comparing, past numbers, whatever that is, the
It's
70s
skewed
and
a
all
little bit.
that, I definitely think they're more skewed than the numbers from now.
Well, the only I mean, you might be right with that, but the one thing that I would say that would sort of go in the other direction is, if you go back to the 70s, and back that far, it was a bigger deal. And this is my take from being alive then, right? And actually living through that time.
Why you say it
It
like that?
wasn't well, no, now it's like there's so much more like sex in general is like constantly talked about and it's out there all the time and it's just not I'm trying to think of the right way to put it. I hate to say not taken as seriously, but it's like it's just not quote unquote as big of a deal. I mean, keep in mind what in the 60s, maybe in the early 70s, when they had sitcoms, they didn't even show the husband and wife, the married husband and wife having one bed. They showed them having separate beds,
In which decade are we talking about?
for sure the 60s, maybe the early 70s. I'm not sure. I don't remember
Okay,
when
so
they switched.
that's only evidence that they were really good at lying. What do you
I'm
mean?
just
It's obviously not what happened. So if
okay.
anything, that helps prove my point.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does.
It does not. It does
I
not.
think, okay.
I'm not saying, just to be clear, I'm not saying people didn't cheat or anything back. Obviously they did, okay? And I'm not even assuming that automatically there was less cheating. All I'm saying is
There wasn't.
it was a bigger deal.
It was, but it was a lot more difficult to find out and to verify that someone was cheating
true.
on you back then than it
Yeah.
is now.
Yeah.
There was a lot less of a paper trail.
Right. But I mean, the one thing you didn't have, and it could go both ways, you didn't have the internet, right? So you didn't have where somebody could just be on the internet at night, like quote unquote cheating with someone or meeting people, right? So the only way you met people were you were going out or you were at work or whatever.
Yeah.
So the initial meetup with someone, it didn't happen. It didn't just happen by chance, right?
No,
like in other words,
but
it was. Yeah, go ahead.
No, finish your sentence.
No, I'm just saying that's kind of.
I don't disagree with that. If anything, though, continuing my little rant of cynicism, I would argue that they just had lower bars. Because here's the thing. I mean, I'm sure there are some cases of, and I don't even know how you would possibly go about verifying this, some cases of people that genuinely thought they would never cheat in their lives. And just whatever happened, and, whatever percentage that is. I think it's very, very low.
Mhm.
But I also think that, kind of like you had said earlier, that, people that are just bad people, I think people that are going to cheat are going to cheat. So it doesn't matter if they're around and I'm saying this in as nice a way possible as I can think to say it, but like, if that's because this is all that this person is around, if that's like the 5 at work, like on a scale of 1 to 10, if that's the 5 that I got to cheat with, then I'm cheating with the 5.
Right.
And so my point is, people that are going to cheat are going to cheat. And just because people now have a wider selection of people to choose from, I don't think that it's like, oh, well, I have so many people to choose from, so
Right.
I'm definitely going to cheat. I think it's, I'm going to cheat, and lucky me, I have such a wide selection of people to choose from. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think.
Whereas like in the 70s or the 60s, it was like, I'm going to cheat, and I have to cheat with the 5, whatever she does at work, because that's my option.
Right. This is the best.
And it sounds awful saying it like that.
I know, but
like
it's
I'm
true.
not trying to, but
I don't disagree with that.
okay. Here's the thing.
It goes back to.
Here's
Go
the
ahead,
thing.
hurry up.
You always say, whenever I make a good point, you always say, I don't disagree with that. And you never say, I agree with that. What an excellent point, Samantha. Thank goodness you're here to give us these pearls of wisdom. I never get that.
Okay.
Not
Well,
once.
that was a long thing though. I have to be careful to say I completely agree, because there's probably one little bit in there maybe I didn't
And
completely
God
agree. I don't know.
forbid.
Getting back to the good people that do bad things, right? There is that group of people who and it could be somebody at work, it could be even, I hate to say online, because that right off the bat it kind of immediately conjures up a bad connotation maybe. But let's say someone that is a friend, and they're good friends, and they start to form an emotional relationship, and it's like, where does that cross the line, right? And the thing is, those people who are good people may kind of have an emotional relationship,
No.
but then they have like the moral compass that tells them, okay, not that I can't talk to this person anymore, but like, this is it. This is it. I can't, I'm not going to try to go out of my way to definitely not to be alone with this person, or I'm not going to do anything to try to start a physical relationship, because morally that would be wrong.
Here's where I think it gets sketchy with that.
Okay.
It gets sketchy when, in this little scenario you're talking about, is this person, whoever that is, you, whoever, a fake person, is this person telling their significant other about this, that they have realized that they've reached this metaphorical wall, and they're like, I just want you to
I,
know I kind of
no,
realized this, but I'm putting an end to it.
no,
And
I
what?
don't.
No, you don't. And
You're
honestly,
asking me a question, and I'm answering your
you just said
question.
no, though. You
You
just
said, "Is
shook your
this
head no.
person?" You asked me a question. Is this person? And I said no. Like obviously, I
Because
don't think so.
emotional cheating to you is not a big thing, and it's a big thing now. It is a giant thing now. It is.
But hold on, hold
There
on.
are people that
What
would rather
define it?
be emotionally cheated on than, or would rather be physically cheated on than emotionally cheated on.
Define emotional cheating. I mean, does that mean you can't be
Feeling
friends with
you
anyone?
can
You
be
can't.
friends with whoever you
Right.
want. Feeling in any type of way, the way that you feel about your significant other, and like the
Oh,
feelings that they give you.
yeah.
And this is not a strict definition of emotional cheating. This is just me, because you just asked this. This is what comes to mind right now.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you feel like any way with this person that you don't feel with other people. If you're
Mm-hmm.
out with a group of friends and you want to talk to this person more than you want to talk to everybody else, and
Mm-hmm.
you want to make this person laugh more than you make other people laugh, like that stuff is weird, and it creates this, it's just a weird dynamic. And what?
No, okay. There are going to be people in your life, right? Like, let's say you're a typical person who is, let's say you're married, but you have a job. So you go to the job, you work with people every day.
It's not cheating.
There are going to be people that you meet that you get along with. You think, you laugh, you have a kind of uh, maybe an emotional bond, not the same. Obviously, it shouldn't be the same as with your spouse, but I think it would be to immediately go back to your spouse. It sounds like you're
I
almost
didn't say to
apologizing.
immediately. That's
No,
not.
no, no. But what I'm
I was
saying is,
using
if
the
you go
example that
back,
you gave.
if you said, okay, if you went back to your spouse and said, just so you know, I'm working with this person and I really like them, but I'm not going to cheat on you. I mean, immediately you're putting to me stress on,
Okay.
like in other words,
No,
well, let me finish my thought.
you just
When
started a new one.
I know I'm trying to make the point. When I got married, right? And even before that, I made a commitment to your mother. So there was no doubt at that point in my mind or in her mind that I was going to keep that commitment. So I don't have to
Physically.
go. No, not just physically. I mean, obviously, physical is we could talk about the main thing versus the second thing, whatever. But my point is that's a key thing.
I don't.
I think it's weird for somebody to say that I'd rather have you physically cheat than emotionally
Okay,
cheat. I think
then that's what
women
I'm
in
going to
general might
say.
feel like that, but
Why are you calling? I have at no point in
no,
this
I've heard that
conversation have
before.
I made a
I've
distinction between men and
I've heard
women
that in
on
the
that.
past. I'm telling you, I've heard it
Okay,
in the
and so
past.
from a completely non-biased, non-gendered, sexualized way,
Mm-hmm.
the logic there is, which I'm not saying this is how I feel, I'm saying this is in some movie or TV show or something that someone says something along these lines, where it's, if you physically cheat on me, at least, and that's all it was physical,
Mm-hmm.
then it's like, okay, well, it was just physical. You know what I mean? Like that's all it was. Whereas if you're emotionally cheating on me, you're like, that you could love that person the way that, you say you love me. And we could have the conversation where it's like, if someone says they love you, they're not going to physically cheat on you either. I'm not
I
suggesting that, but I'm just saying that's the logic behind it. Is physical is just like, physical is just a physical thing. Whereas the emotional cheating is like forming an actual bond. And this is a generational thing, because you're shaking your head.
No, it's
This
not
is
just a
not going to.
generational thing.
No,
It's
I'm
not.
just saying this is not going to make sense. I'm not saying I agree with that. I'm
Okay.
saying you're not going to understand the point that I'm making, because to you that makes no sense.
I think it's
And you're like, that's insane. What?
it
I
may
don't.
be. I don't. I was going to say is I think it may be more of even though you're saying from a non-gender way, it may be more of a gender thing. To me, okay, for you to say, well, I'm falling in love with someone else, so that's an emotional thing. To me, if you don't love if you honest to God love someone, that trumps the physical part. You would not go and physically
And that's what I
cheat
just
on
said. The
someone.
argument could be made.
Well, I don't
disagree.
I mean, that would be my argument, because otherwise it would be okay for you to say, okay, for some woman to tell her husband, yes, every, I don't know, last Friday of the month, you're allowed to go find a hooker
Why is it a
somewhere
woman
because you
or the
have these
man and
physical
not the
needs.
other way?
It could be either way, okay?
Anyway.
But because more men cheat based
Great.
on the percentages.
What you're talking about is like, oh, what? So I'm just supposed to, tell my wife, like, as soon as I'm friends with someone that's a woman. That's not what I said. That's not what you said. That's not the example that you gave. I was going off the example that you gave, which is you're friends with this woman and you realize that you are starting to form an emotional, potentially cheating, emotionally situation.
Yeah.
And you said that, well, it's not like you have to stop being friends with her. You just have to, like, set the boundary for yourself and all that. And what I'm saying is, what I think in a healthy relationship, which what do I know of those,
Okay,
right?
go
Is
ahead.
that what we're all
No,
thinking
no,
right
I'm
now?
with-
That's what I'm thinking. In a healthy relationship that has open communication and honesty about everything, yeah, if I were in that situation, as uncomfortable as that conversation would be, I think showing that level of, first of all, like, self-awareness, but also, in my opinion, that's just, like, mature to do that and say, like, if I'm, married to someone, God forbid, if I'm married to someone,
Mhm.
that was the God forbid part, and I'm gonna die alone, and it just, like, hits me randomly that I'm gonna die alone. Okay.
Oh, come
I'll be
on.
fine. I'll be fine.
Okay.
Anyway, if I were married to someone and I realized that, first of all, here's the thing. I know, I'm back.
We're getting whiplash.
This is my life. I would not want to stay friends. I need you to ignore the tears that are coming out of my eyes. I would not want to stay friends with that person because it's like, okay, regardless of whether or not I can turn this off like a switch and be like, oh, I'm just gonna stop where we're at in the emotional connection. I'm just gonna, like, leave you right here in time, and our relationship is just gonna be this. That's not how that works. You can't just be like, this is exactly where our connection stops,
Right.
because it's not just up to you; it's also up to the other person. So that's number one.
Uh-huh.
Number two, though, I can't. Especially if this were, like, someone that I worked with,
Yeah.
that I had to see every day,
Uh-huh.
I can't. I don't think that would be fair to my significant other for me to, like that. For me, a non-cheater, that would eat me alive. Going to work every day and being like, this is crazy because, like, I was starting to form, like, this weird emotional connection. I cut it off, but, like, my spouse doesn't know, so I still feel like I kind of cheated.
Okay.
Like, and that's just
I'm
me.
sure, but
I'm never gonna get married anyway, so none of this matters.
I'm sure
gonna die
I'm sure
alone.
you've heard the terms work husband, work wife before, right?
Yeah, and I think
where people joke about that.
Those are disgusting.
No,
think they're
they're not.
disgusting
See,
and
and that's
absurd.
no. You're taking. In my opinion, I feel like you're taking that too literally or too seriously.
No, this is not me though. This is
Who is
and
this?
maybe this isn't maybe this isn't necessarily a generational thing, but this is definitely, and I've worked many more places than you have. Okay. I've worked many, for better or for worse. I've worked many more places than you have.
Start adding them up. Hold on,
we're not
before
doing
we
this.
we're not going to assume that.
I have a lot of restaurants which are notoriously filled with cheaters and not good for relationships in general. And I cannot think of genuinely, like, off the top of my head right now, I cannot think of one single person that has referred to either their work wife or their work husband that was not super sketchy, and that I know of. Like, a bunch of them cheated multiple times. Like now, maybe just in the industries that I've worked and stuff, that is not a cute, oh, this is the person that we go to dinner with them,
maybe it
and
is a
like this, we're
generational
all
thing.
friends here. I'm not saying it's generational.
No,
I'm
maybe
saying
it is. I'm saying
there's a very big difference in what you're referring to as a cute little work wife, work husband thing versus what I have experience with.
The people
I'm
the
yelling, I'm sorry.
the people that I've worked with that cheated, they didn't joke around about work husband, work wife. They try to keep everything under wraps, right? The ones that joked about it were legit joking about it. They weren't, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't anything serious. The ones that I knew anyway. I just I feel like, the case of, okay, you're friends with someone and you kind of, you're I don't know. I hate to say you're fighting an emotional relationship or bond or whatever you want to
Sketchy.
say. My point is, to me, that's temptation. That's like normal. That's where a good person, okay, someone that actually is keeping their commitment, vow, whatever you want to call it, okay, knows they don't cross that line. That's like
I just personally think, and we got to wrap it up here. I personally think
bump the
it
microphone there.
should never even get to that point. I think there are plenty of males that I've been friends with, that I am currently friends with, that I have never felt any kind of emotionally romantic connection with.
Mm-hmm.
It's always been, whatever we bond over, whatever the thing is. I've known plenty of those kinds of boys and guys and men throughout my life that I have felt nothing for. They've felt nothing for me.
Mm-hmm.
And those are fine. And I don't understand why that can't just be like, I'm not saying men and women can't be friends. I'm not suggesting that at all. What I am suggesting is you go in, not you specifically, but people go into friendships, and I think there are very clear signs that from the very beginning that something could potentially be there in another life or in a different time if you hadn't met your wife yet and if you hadn't done this and all that.
Well, yeah. I mean,
if someone's your type, if you guys bond over 99% of things, if like there are just a lot of signs there.
Yeah.
And I think people just ignore all that and say, well, I'm never going to do anything physical, so it's okay because I'm never going to physically cheat on my wife. So I'm allowed to be friends with whoever I want to be with.
I guess I just look at it as just because someone gets married or someone's in a committed relationship, at that point they don't become a robot, right? They still
that's not what I'm suggesting.
Well, I'm just let me finish. They still whether it's at work, whether it's wherever, you're still going to come across people you're attracted to either physically and, like I said, emotionally, not emotionally, maybe on a mentally, just because you have similar interests. So that's not going to go away no matter what. And I guess it's kind of like, okay, where do you draw the line? To me, the line is you made a commitment, period, end of story. You don't do anything to try to in any way further that relationship. Like if you work with someone, yes, you work with them. You're going to talk to them every day, but you don't look for opportunities to say, hey, you want to go after work and get a drink or something like that, unless you're really thirsty.
I understand.
Then it's understandable.
I understand what you're saying, and I agree with most of it. But what I'm saying is my longest relationship was about 3 years.
That was longer than that.
No point in there was I in that time. Were there other people that, and not even like, not people that I worked with or anything, but like that I could have been physically attracted to, that I could acknowledge, like, yes, I'm physically attracted to that person. Sure. Obviously would never do anything. No point during that time did I even come close to forming an emotional, like, potentially cheating romantic connection with someone else.
That's because you're a good person.
I know, but what I'm saying is it's at no point during those 3 years was there even someone that I had to stop myself from feeling that way about. So I think it's entirely possible to just live your life and avoid, people that you maybe could emotionally have an attachment to.
I agree.
Okay.
I agree with that. I think the two emotional...
And I have plenty of male friends still during that time, for the
emotional and physical go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Maybe hand in hand. Well, that is physical. But you know what I mean. They go
spit on my mic.
Emotionally hand in hand, with an emotional hand on one side and a physical hand on the other. I don't know where I'm going with this. Help me out.
I'm just thinking about how I'm going to die alone.
Okay.
So this has been a really fun
No,
little
no.
exercise today.
Don't say it. The cats will be there.
Oh, good. Oh, goody. Me and my, well, however many there are left at that point.
Blend.
Oh, you
Le
said
blend.
I just realized.
The feminine form of le blend.
What would be?
Le blend.
As opposed to?
No, that would be la blend. Le would be the plural. Le blends.
Les blancs.
Yeah.
I just
Le
realized
blend.
why
Le
it's.
blend.
I just realized why it's so funny to me when you say that every time.
Yeah,
It's
go ahead.
because it reminds me of.
Go ahead. What?
It reminds me of Iglesias.
Oh, yeah. Chocolate covered raisins. Boiled football leather. Glazed ham. Le blend. Goodbye. Is that it?
Put glazed ham out.
I'm gonna save it as a glazed ham. Should I stop recording now?